Hi, this is Calvin Cox. It's January 24, 2013, and it's 9:23 p.m. in the evening. The talk I'm going to give is going to be a little bit more about moles, M-O-L-E-S, little furry creatures, about so big they're about the size of a mouse, and they have a more like a long, thin snout that comes out front. When I was living in the woods up around Frederick, Maryland, excuse me, let me take the gum out of my mouth. When I was living in the woods up around Frederick, Maryland, I have said before on other videos, I had a tremendous amount of time, many times in the spring and fall. I would sit in a chair or on a bucket out in the woods around my little home, and there were leaves all around, and you would hear moles have this thing that I noticed from hearing them quite a few times. They had squeaky, a real high squeaky. I can't really imitate it well. Kind of almost like a screechy, screamy little, fairly high-pitched way they communicate and talk with each other. And so the leaves, every now and then, I knew there was a mole going by. The leaves would like rustle just a little bit, and you knew a mole was, going under them, wherever their little trail above the ground when they don't have a tunnel under there. And another time, I had a little home I had made up there out of sticks and plastic, and I had a board set up, and it was up off the ground about so far on some blocks, and I was laying there, and this mole who inhabited to my left side going up the hill, I knew there was a mole there, and I knew that if there was food around, they probably weren't going to come crawl on me and bite me. But I guess this mole, I didn't know what this mole was trying to do or say. It knew I was there. I mean, little critters like that, moles and mice and rats and other, they're always checking their environment and seeing, what's around, and, I guess it's just something they would naturally do. So the mole knew I was there, and I'm laying there trying to get some sleep. And this mole comes, I don't know, it would probably be about 2.5, maybe 3 feet from my head. It starts making this noise like, real. I can't even do it. It's much higher pitched and screechy, and just sat there like on and on and on. And I was like, man, shut up! And then it like turned and ran away and went into its hole. And it did that more than once. I mean, I don't know if it strikes me that they're a very bold creature to do something like that. I mean, that's amazing. That would be like, I know what the comparison would be like. That would be like you going up to a 100-foot giant and yelling at him or something. It's very, it amazed me that mole did that, and it did it more than once. And I told him, shut up. And I think one time I even tried to lay something over its, hold to its little home there, to not where it couldn't get out, but say, hey, you're getting a little bit pushy there. And that strikes me as very interesting, that a creature that small is so bold as to do something like that. I definitely felt it was deliberate. But some of God's creatures definitely seem to be that way. I remember one time I was cutting a lawn, this was about 4 years ago, down on the Outer Banks, and there was where this, in one of these back canals in somebody's yard, I was helping this guy cut grass, where the water would come up out of the canal, and this type of grass would grow where it was transitioning from a yard to like kind of muddy and these little reeds that would grow about so tall. And I noticed that there was a little tiny crab, literally about this big, and it had one claw. It was a single claw crab. And down in that area, there's a lot of them. Up here, I don't know if I've ever seen one before. But anyway, I noticed I was like pushing the mower, and the front wheel, I noticed this little crab, and he was moving along. And rather than just hurry up and scurry on along, maybe he felt threatened by me or whatever, but he stopped. I mean, it wasn't like he was trying to run away and it was like, he was going to fight. He stopped and held up his one claw, And I was sitting there with this massive mower that could just like squish him, and the blade would hit him and he'd fly into a billion pieces. It's like... it's like some creatures are that way, and so that just absolutely bold. I told the person who I was down there with when I was cutting the lawnmower, I told him afterwards what had happened. He kind of laughed. That's one little crab is just so incredibly bold, and it's like that mole also had that kind of that boldness in its genetics. I don't know what it is. But then the one other time when I was sitting there, it was very cold. There was snow on the ground, and I'm just sitting on my bed, and I'm looking around. There wasn't anything to do. And lo and behold, like down a little ways, some snow had come through an opening in the roof and had gathered about so much. And these two little moles pop out, both coming from different directions from the snow. How they knew where to go, I don't know. But they pop out, and they're like making that squeaky noise, talking to each other, and they're like communicating what they're going to do. And then I guess they decided to leave, and like one's like, then the other one, and then they like bump into each other like they're going to leave, but they bumped into each other, and then they ran around each other, and each one went into a different hole, and they took off. It was so funny watching some of these critters in the woods. They were quite amazing.